Hey PBC, has life ever thrown you a curveball? I mean, we are living through the age of the coronavirus, so right now totally count. When that curveball comes, do you sometimes think that God is being unfair to you? That you do not deserve the hardship or the trials or the suffering that you're facing? This week in the Word of Life Quiet Time books, we have been reading through the book of Ruth. Most of us have heard the story of Ruth as a child in our Sunday school classes. She left her homeland to go back to Israel with her mother-in-law Naomi. She falls in love with the charming Boaz, who becomes her knight in shining armor and marries her. The funny thing is, though, when you actually get into the book of Ruth, it's not all sunshine and skittles. You see, in chapter 1, Elimelech, Naomi's husband, moves the family from Moab because of the famine that's happening in the land of Israel. While there, Naomi's sons marry Moabite girls. Then Elimelech and her sons and Naomi's sons die. Naomi decides she's going to go back to Israel and tells her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, that they should go back to their families. Orpah does just that, but Ruth decides she's going to stay with Naomi and go with her back to Israel. Through this entire exchange, Naomi is throwing a pity party for herself and blames God for all of her misfortune. This is where I want us to park for a few moments during our Devo today. In Ruth chapter 1, verses 11 through 13, the Bible says, "And Naomi said, 'Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb that they may be your husband? Turn again, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord hath gone out against me.'" Because of what life had thrown Naomi, travel to a new home, the loss of her husband and her sons, it was all God's fault. She blames God for all her troubles. You notice she said, "The hand of the Lord has gone out against me." She claimed that in the back end of verse 13 there. In fact, once she gets back to Israel, she states to the people in verse 20, "Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly to me." Have you ever felt that God has dealt very bitterly with you? That you have been dealt a raw hand? If we look at what happened in the life of Naomi, the raw hand she was dealt came as a result of her husband and possibly her taking action without consulting God. In the first part of the chapter, the Bible tells us that Elimelech took his family and moved them because of the famine in the land of Israel. There is no record of them seeking God's face or praying for direction. There is no record of them seeking wise counsel from godly men. It says, "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his sons." You see, sometimes we find ourselves in places where we are going through trials of our own making. We did not go to God about what we should do, and we did not seek wise counsel from godly men and women around us. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying every trial or misfortune that comes your way is because of something you did. What I am saying is that sometimes we decide we're going to do what we want to do, but then we have to face the consequences. But notice with me how God never misses the opportunity to show his children how much he loves them. In chapter 2 of the book of Ruth, we see that Ruth has made nice with a man named Boaz. She has begun working in the field, gathering the leftovers, and Boaz tells his people to leave behind some extra, not to mess with her, and when she's thirsty, she can have some of the water that is reserved for the workers. When Ruth tells Naomi about all of this, Naomi's tone changes completely. In Ruth chapter 2, verse 20, the Bible says, "And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead." Naomi is now thanking God for the provision of the kinsman who is helping take care of them. Eventually, Ruth and Boaz do get married and have a son named Obed, who has a son named Jesse, who has a son named David, whose descendant is Jesus. You see, even when we make a mess of our lives, God can use it for good. We may not see the good at this time because we're focused on our problem. Some may question. So my question for you today is this: Are you focused on the problem or on the good that God has in store for you? Are you looking at what life has thrown you or what God can do with you during this time? We have heard some say that the COVID-19 is God's judgment. Some think it's a hoax, others just don't know. Here's what I think it is. God is working in the lives of his people. He is growing them through this time of trial. Some are thriving and growing, others are walking away completely. My prayer for you today is that you would be a Ruth who is willing to hold on and see the good regardless of the trial we're facing. May God bless you, and we can't wait to see you on Sunday.